Well, we got through it. Night one of WrestleMania 42 is in the books, and I, DerekJ Speaks, am here to talk about it with you guys. How did you like Commercial Mania with a few sprinkles of wrestling matches crammed in there every now and then? Although that's the case if you were watching on the ESPN app or the first hour on ESPN2. Then for the rest of the show on the ESPN app, if you were watching on Netflix, either internationally or in the States with a VPN, I'm sure you were treated to multiple times throughout the show clips from the Hulk Hogan Netflix documentary. Like very long clips, like 3-minute long clips. Then an additional 60, 90 seconds of other ads and just layouts. And then shots of celebrities in the crowd and some long entrances and other product placement and advertisements that the commentators were doing. That's what WrestleMania was this year. It is as bad as it has ever been. I'm not even, like, this section here is not even talking or focusing on the creative or the actual in-ring work by the talent, because that is all subjective. But the actual layout of this show right now, with how everything they do seems to be so heavily reliant on all of these advertisements and product placements and just selling you stuff. It's ridiculous. I mean, we see it all across media. It's on social media, it's in sports, it's in TV shows. I understand it. I get it. But with and we've seen it with wrestling, things like this have happened, but like, I don't know. It was just way, way worse. And we've seen this over the past several months with these PLEs ever since WWE went to ESPN for WrestlePalooza. It's just been horrible. And WrestleMania was just no exception to that. It was painful. It was just a bad viewing experience. For people who sat here throughout the entire show and watched and enjoyed WrestleMania from top to bottom, I'm very curious what their viewing experience was like, because for me, it was horrible. Again, taking out the actual matches, but we'll include them in this regard, in that you watch a match start and then end within a few minutes, less than 10, for some reason, almost all of the women's matches, by the way, and a match ends, you feel nothing, then they cut to a very, very long commercial break. There's no video packages to hype up the match. I know these matches had video packages because WWE released all of them on their YouTube channel, so I guess if you wanted to see them, that's the place to go. But they didn't show any video packages, no vignettes or anything like that, which could be helpful, especially for these so-called lapsed and, casual fans that they're trying to appeal to with this whole ESPN synergy in the first place. You would think that if they're reaching out to new fans or older fans, that showing stuff like video packages would be enough to entice them and catch them up on the stories. But no. Just ads, more commercials, more product placements, more sponsorships. We had an unsanctioned match on this show. A hardcore, no holds barred, no DQ type match between two heated rivals. But don't you worry, because that grueling war of a match between these two strong men who hate each other and want to rip each other apart was sponsored by Chumba Casino. That's the kind of product we have right now. It's nauseating. And again, just sitting here watching it, watching the weekly shows is bad enough. Having to experience that with WrestleMania is not ideal, but it's what we got. And it contributed to my overall thoughts on night one of WrestleMania, which is not good. I did not like this show. There's aspects of it that I did like. There are a few matches, literally a few, because there's only 2 on the entire show that I genuinely liked from start to finish. And there were a few moments here and there that were cool or fine or interesting, but just overall as a viewer, as someone watching the show, it was horrible having to sit through all of those ads. And I'm sorry if anyone listening to this feels like I'm belaboring that point, but you just don't understand. Maybe it doesn't bother you that much. You're immune to it. You can just check out. You can just tune out. Oh, the advertisements and the breaks come up. I can just forget about it. Well, to me, that's a bit of a problem. Where a match ends and it's another 15 or 20 minutes until the bell rings for the next match afterwards. Up and down the card, you look at the match times, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, barely. Yet they still extended the show out to 4 hours. I have no idea how that happened, but somehow it did. But regardless, a lot of things did happen on this show, including a WWE Championship main event between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. 20 years of history, as Michael Cole repeatedly mentioned on commentary. It's not actually 20 years, but that sounds cool, I guess. But it's many, many years of history between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton that WWE decided to sacrifice for the unnecessary inclusion of Pat McAfee into this story. But they pivoted away from that in this match. All those weeks of terrible television and awful Pat McAfee promos led to this show where before the bell even rang, Randy and Pat attacked Cody, but Cody fought back. He laid out Pat with a crossroads and took him out to the floor where Jelly Roll appeared and hit an elbow drop on Pat through the announce table, and Pat was stretchered to the back where many thought we wouldn't see him again. But at least he was gone for majority of the match, so we didn't have any outside BS with Pat McAfee involved in this match, which was good. He was never needed in the first place. I'm glad that they decided to book this in a way where he wasn't a huge distraction throughout the entire match. That much is fine. That does not excuse them for including him in the first place. That was still a bad decision and led to very bad television, in my opinion, since so many people are hung up on that. In my opinion, it was very bad television, but they decided to remove him from the equation for majority of this match. Cool. What we were left with was a very slow slog of a match. Now, they were telling a story with Randy's back. Michael Cole was mentioning on commentary how there's been rumors over the past week that Randy is injured, and Cody was targeting Randy's back, of course, his surgically repaired back, and that took up a good chunk of the early part of the match, and I was not invested. It didn't sound like the fans were all that invested. With Pat out of the way, they were free to cheer for Randy and boo Cody all they want to, and boy did they, especially as the match went on. And as the match went on, it was very weird because Cody, clearly they were showing that Cody was, fighting with a more killer instinct. He was taking not necessarily shortcuts, but he wasn't, playing completely by the rules. He was raking the eye. He busted Randy open. He even wiped some of Randy's blood on his own chest. He was hitting some of Randy's own moves on him. So he was getting down and dirty and stooping to Randy's level in that regard. If you didn't think about it, you would be thinking that they were teasing a double turn here, but I knew that could not have possibly been the case, and clearly, as the match ended, it showed that was not the case. But regardless, as I mentioned, both men hit each other. Well, Cody hit some of Randy's own moves on him, but Randy did the same to Cody. He even hit him with a crossroads, and Cody hit him with an RKO. Both men bled. Randy got rammed into the ring post and he got busted open. Cody was busted open a little bit later to the point where almost his entire head was just engulfed in blood. That added a little bit of something extra to the match. But then we got to the end, and after Cody raked Randy's eye and temporarily blinded him, he accidentally hit an RKO on the referee. Poor Charles Robinson got laid out with an RKO. And so there's no ref. Randy tries to kick Cody in the dick. Cody blocks it. He kicks Randy in the dick. Then he goes up top trying to hit a super Cody cutter, and then Randy hits him with an RKO in midair. No referee. Randy goes for the cover. Out comes Pat McAfee. He's back, and he has a neck brace on. He's famous for doing that. Anytime he ever takes a bump and he shows up in public settings, he always has a neck brace on. So he had a neck brace on here. He ran out wearing a referee shirt and went for the cover, and Cody kicked out. And Randy got up. He hit Pat McAfee with an RKO, got a huge pop, probably the biggest pop of the entire match, and then turned right around into a crossroads from Cody and got pinned 1, 2, 3. So Cody's still the champion. Randy did not win title number 15. So theoretically, this means Pat McAfee is no longer going to appear on WWE television. So yay for Cody. The fans should be happy. But these fans were not happy. I know they weren't happy because they cheered very loudly and very proudly for what happened after the match. So as Cody is celebrating, Randy swipes the belt from him and clocks him in the head with it. And then, as Cody is down on his knees, Randy rears back and gives him a punt kick right to the skull. And Cody is down, Randy's posing with the belt, and these very sympathetic fans in Las Vegas are cheering and chanting one more time as Cody's wife and daughter are right there in the front row. I don't know if they were still there. They never showed them on camera after Cody initially came out. He went over and, held his daughter and hugged his wife and all that, Brandy, but we never saw them again. In fact, I saw Randy's wife and kids way more in this match than I did Brandy. Maybe I missed something. I don't know. But that's where we left things. Now, did Cody get stretchered out? Is he gone for several months? I don't know, because, I didn't watch the entire post-show. I typically don't when I do these reviews, but very briefly looking at the post-show as one of the interviewers is talking on camera on the aisleway, I see Cody Rhodes just walking in the background. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the punt kick used to put people on the shelf for, if not several weeks, maybe even months. And here's Cody just freely walking by himself, bloody, but still just walking away like it was nothing. Like he got hit with just any old move, and he just brushed it off and walking away. Okay. Interesting. Maybe we weren't supposed to see that, but I don't know. They probably should have treated that a little bit better. But regardless, this clearly shows that this feud is going to continue, maybe into Backlash. Randy might get the belt later. They might have a rematch. I hope that match is better. Now, I want to say this match was not bad. It was not terrible. It was very boring for like the first half, little over half of it. And then basically as soon as Randy started bleeding, that's when I started to care. I can blame the blood. That added a little something extra to it, but that was around the time that I started to really get into it and seeing Cody fight a little dirtier than we usually see him. Of course, he was getting booed for it, but either way, I will say that this match was better than the one Cody had with John Cena at WrestleMania last year. And maybe they can follow a similar blueprint where they can run this match back at SummerSlam and have a far superior, excellent match. But it is 2 years in a row that Cody has a very underwhelming WrestleMania main event. It's just 1 year was worse than the other. This one wasn't as bad as last year's, but it was still not all that great. And I don't know, something about that ending, even with the punt kick, I mean, you would think that would be a lot more dramatic. And I don't even want to get into the idea of, well, if Cody was going to get punted anyway and Randy's just going to win the belt later on, why not just have him win it here? I mean, fair question. I don't know what the mindset and strategy was behind that booking decision, but it is what it is. They wanted to go off the air with Cody winning, but still have Randy get his heat back and stand tall and indicate that this feud is going to continue. They could have done it differently, sure, but this is the way they did it. It wasn't terrible. I didn't necessarily love it. It just felt like, I mean, it was like, it's a big moment that Randy Orton punt kicks Cody Rhodes in the skull. This is the first time Randy's done this move on anyone in several years. So it should have felt more impactful, but as the finish to WrestleMania and just the way it came off felt far more like an angle to end an episode of Raw or just any other random pay-per-view or PLE. And honestly, that's what this entire show felt like, because it did not feel like WrestleMania. It felt like many, many, many different things, but WrestleMania was not one of them. And I know it's not saying much. WrestleMania many times over the years has not felt like WrestleMania. Well, this is one of those years. AJ Styles said in an interview not long after he retired about how WrestleMania has lost a lot of its luster. He was not kidding. I didn't know WWE would immediately prove him to be correct so quickly, but he was proven correct here. And shout out to AJ Styles, who went into the Hall of Fame the night before. Congrats to him. He had one of the shortest speeches in Hall of Fame history, because I'm sure he remembers being out there for some of those previous Hall of Fame ceremonies where the talent are all out there in the wee hours of the night / early morning. So he kept it short and sweet, got the boys and girls out of there quickly, so good on him. But yeah, where this goes with Cody and Randy going forward, I don't know. All I can do is hope and pray that it is Pat McAfee-less and it is Jelly Roll-less. And we don't see either one of those two people ever again. But for all I know, Pat McAfee might show up on SmackDown this very week. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Hopefully, at the very least, Cody can miss a show or two. But again, it didn't look like the punt kick bothered him that much. From what I saw, he wasn't even really helped by any officials. Like, referees and stuff were following him, but it's not like he was escorted to the back. He was walking on his own power. Maybe I missed something in the middle there. I don't know, but it didn't really look like it was all that impactful. And again, that was really the story of this entire show. Nothing felt like it was all that impactful. Nothing felt like it really truly mattered to anything going forward. You know, we're just, I don't know. I was not overly impressed with a lot of this show. I mentioned the women's matches. Look, I'm not someone sitting here begging to watch a match involving Nia Jax and Lash Legend and Brie Bella be some 35-minute clinic. But a championship match at WrestleMania probably should go a little bit longer than 8 minutes when it involves people like Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss and Bayley, who got screwed out of a WrestleMania appearance last year. and a returning Paige, because that was the big story in that match. The Fatal 4-Way for the women's tag team titles. Nikki Bella was supposed to team up with her sister Brie, but she has had a sprained ankle for the past several weeks. She's been trying to rehab it and get cleared. She did not get cleared, and instead of swapping out the Bellas completely and replacing them with Asuka and Kairi Sane like what was reported, which now that we know what they did makes it all that more egregious that they did not add Asuka versus Io Sky to the WrestleMania card, but that's a story for a different day. So instead of taking the Bellas out of the equation completely, they just gave Brie a new tag team partner. And a lot of people like me knew exactly who that partner was going to be because all the wrestling reporters online reported it and put that news out there immediately. Now, it's my fault. I'm the one who lives on social media. I'm the one who scours social media for all the dirt sheets and all these news and backstage reports and all that kind of stuff. So it's my own fault, even though, I mean, some of them weren't even hiding it. Like, you just go on there and it's all of the posts. Like, the headline is that Paige re-signed with WWE and she's going to replace Nikki and be Brie Bella's partner. Like, that was in the headline. It wasn't like, oh, this certain individual, this mystery legend from the past is coming back and might appear at WrestleMania. And then you have to click on it to actually see the story. Nope, the headline was Paige returns because that's what gets the clicks. That's what gets the views. I get it. That's their job. I understand that. And, you know, it is what it is. But yes, Paige did make an appearance on the show. She got a pretty decent reaction. And in fact, anything involving Paige in this match was the only thing that got a reaction. All the other women got no reaction. There's a lot of that going on this show. This Las Vegas crowd, much like last year, which was not a very hot crowd last year either, outside of a few things here and there and some of the main events. But it was the same deal here, especially in this match. But Paige and Brie got the win, so we have new tag team champions. I had a feeling the Bellas were going to win the titles, and it is weird that, you know, it seemed like that was going to be the big moment, but instead they just gave it to Brie and Paige. So that's weird, but regardless, it's fine. We had the Women's Intercontinental Championship on the line as well, with Becky Lynch challenging AJ Lee. This match, also fairly short, about 8 minutes, maybe closer to 10, something along those lines. I think it was about 8 or so minutes. 8 minutes and change. But these two had a decent match. I remember liking their match at Elimination Chamber a little bit better, but this was fine. And Jessica Carr was once again the referee. She got into it with Becky. In fact, at one point, the two of them were shoving each other. So they, you know, amped up that tension here. And ultimately, Jessica Carr played a role in the finish because as we wind down towards the end here, we saw Becky pull Jessica in the way of AJ as she was charging in at Becky in the corner. And she accidentally collided with Jessica. Jessica goes down, and as she's regrouping herself, there was an exposed turnbuckle that got exposed earlier, got fixed, but then got exposed again, and Becky rammed AJ into it and then hit her with the manhandle slam and got the win. So Becky is once again the Intercontinental Champion. Not that I'm overly thrilled to see Becky be a 3-time Intercontinental Champion, but at least it's not on someone who's not going to be there every single week, or at least most weeks. It's not on someone who will show up one week and then disappear for a month or 2 months. Please keep that same idea in mind for night 2. Please and thank you. So, Becky's the champion again. And again, this match doesn't even go past 10 minutes. And as egregious as that is, it's even more so when it comes to the Women's World Championship match. Stephanie Vicaire and Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan came out. She had her new Trouble music video playing, and it's basically her new theme song. And she has some of the choreo here for her entrance with some of the backup dancers. Cool moment for her. I'm not gonna downplay or talk badly about the song. That is in the eye of the beholder. What I behold was not good in my opinion, but to each their own. But this match, honestly, heading into this show over the past several weeks, really started to get my interest levels up, because these two women have been beating the holy hell out of each other for weeks and have been busting each other up big time. So I was actually looking forward to this match, and especially on this show where the previous two women's matches were shortchanged and just felt very dull and unimportant. So I'm looking at this one. It's like, this is one of the matches that I'm actually looking forward to on the show. It's been built up fairly well. You have two very talented women in here who can get a little bit of length. It's a world championship match. It's not just any match. It's a world championship match. This is the world title for the Raw women's division. This is, in theory, the top prize for the women's division on that show. And they go out here at WrestleMania and they get 7 minutes. Now, length of the match does not have to equate to it being good or bad or anything like that. If it's a shorter match but the story is told well enough, that's fine. That's okay. The problem here is these two are fighting. They're brawling. They're very rough with a lot of their moves. But then we get to a point where it just feels like they're just speed running through a lot of big moments. They're hitting each other with certain moves, and it just feels like they're just speeding through things. And then we get interference. We get Roxanne Perez, we get Raquel Rodriguez, and it's like, this seems very early to be getting it. We're only like 5 minutes into this match, and these two are out here to run interference. That's because we were barreling towards the finish. So both women kicked out of each other's finishers. We saw the devil's kiss, all that good stuff there. But after kicking out of one Oblivion from Liv, Stephanie dove out onto the other two women from the Judgment Day, wiped them out, and then got back in the ring, got hit with a diving code breaker from Liv Morgan, who then backed her up into the ropes and hit her with another Oblivion to get the win. Good for Liv Morgan. She got a big WrestleMania moment here. She won the championship. I figured she would. Good for her. I have no idea why this Women's World Championship match got such little time. It got less time than some of the entrances. I feel like this match got less time than Pat McAfee and Randy Orton's entrances combined. Hell, throw Cody Rhodes' entrance in there too, and you combine all three of their entrances in that main event, definitely went longer than this match. But not even that. This match went shorter than the two undercard women's matches, and those matches also went too short. And again, the length of the matches would not be as much of a problem. That's a big problem with a lot of the AEW pay-per-views, and the reason why those shows go on so long. You have match number 2 or 3 on the show going 20 or 25 minutes sometimes. Even 15 minutes, which is sometimes way too long. So again, there has to be a balance somewhere in there, but again, that's not even the issue. The issue is these matches on this show get shortchanged. The opening match, the 6-man tag team match with the Usos and LA Knight and IShowSpeed and The Vision, that match barely went 10 minutes. It probably also went like 7 or 8 minutes too. And it's a problem when you see something like that, but then you look and see, okay, 8 minutes of in-ring time, but 5 minutes total of entrances, and another 5 or 6 minutes of commercials and advertisements, and showing celebrities in the crowd, showing Stephen A. Smith and Tyrese Halliburton and George Kittle and all these people in the crowd. Again, as a viewer, I find that to be very ridiculous, but that's just me. So that was not very encouraging here. But I mentioned the opening 6-man tag. It was fine for what it was. Of course, the opening matches took place on ESPN2. This was the opening match. It was fine. Honestly, it was nothing. The actual thing that mattered was what happened after the match. And in the match itself, it ended with LA Knight hitting the BFT on Austin Theory after miscommunication with IShowSpeed and Logan Paul and Theory. So the babyfaces win. After the match, Logan Paul's pissed. He attacks Speed. He punches him. He puts him outside. He's going to set up for one of his frog splashes on the announce table. That's when the Usos come back in. They pull him down. They hit him with a very sloppy, ugly-looking 1D. He's laid out. Then they put him back outside. He's put onto the announce table, and LA Knight and the Usos help IShowSpeed back into the ring, where he gets up top, and he hits one hell of a frog splash all the way off the ring post, all the way crashing down onto Logan Paul. Cool moment. IShowSpeed, ever since they brought him onto TV, has been very entertaining to watch. So cool moment for him. He's one of the, out of the many celebrities they have used this year for the WrestleMania build, he is one of them that I have not minded seeing. So good on him. He got his big moment here. But the match itself, very much nothing. Really, the only 2 matches on this show that were of any great value in my eyes were the other match that took place on ESPN2, the unsanctioned match with Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu. I thought these two had a really good match here. It was your typical WWE hardcore no DQ match, to the point where the unsanctioned title was very unnecessary. A little bit extreme, if you ask me. But, you know, it just makes it sound a little prettier for the advertisement and promotion of the show. But, I mean, you got the typical stuff, chairs, you got your tables, and things like that. Honestly, I think chairs and tables were really it. Oh, and a toolbox, because of course there was a toolbox, because the toolbox played into the finish of the match, because the toolbox was giving Drew McIntyre war flashbacks from that Hell in a Cell match with CM Punk a few years ago. But these two were having a very good brawl, and it ended after both men kicked out of each other's finishers. Drew kicked out of a mighty moonsault. Jacob kicked out of a claymore. And we get to the end where Fatu gets his hands on that toolbox. We saw it earlier, and we see it again. Fatu had already been put through a table at one point, but he managed to recover. He got his hands on that toolbox, and he blasted McIntyre right in the head with it. He laid him out on a table in the ring, a Slim Jim table, of course, because the advertisements never die. He goes up top, hits the mighty moonsault onto Drew, through the table, and gets the 1, 2, 3. And the crowd went crazy for that. Again, they didn't go too crazy for a lot of stuff on this show, but they did like Jacob Fatu, and they did like seeing him win. And I did too. It was the right call. And again, this was a very good match. Could it have been better? Could they have done a little bit more? Got a little more extreme? Sure. Maybe the fact that they were on ESPN, they didn't want them to go too crazy. Hell if I know. They're on Netflix, yet Netflix bleeps out curse words sometimes. So, like, I don't know what to tell you. But I thought for what it was, they had a really good match. And for a good chunk of the show there, this was the best match of the night. And as the show was going on and these short nothing matches were happening one after another, I was just begging for one match to come up. I was waiting for it, and it finally arrived. That was Seth Rollins versus Gunther. We all know this was not the original plan for this show. The way we got here was very messy, but we got here nonetheless. And the one thing I knew, and a lot of people knew, that the setup for this match may have been a little sloppy, but the actual in-ring action between these two men on this show would deliver. And it did. These two had, in my opinion, what was the best match of the night. at least my personal favorite match of the night. Not some fantastic 5-star classic WrestleMania match that'll be remembered forever, but for this show, it was a very good match, and in comparison to a lot of the other things that happened on this show, it was a tall glass of water in the Sahara Desert. So I'll take what I can get. But these two went out there, started a little slow at the beginning, but it built up fairly nicely. The crowd was fully into Seth Rollins and, of course, hated Gunther, but these two went back and forth and were really great together. Also want to mention how Seth Rollins, during his entrance, he looked pretty badass with the all black contacts, and the camera got right up in his face, so he looked really cool with it. And then suddenly they were gone. I have no idea how he did that, so that was really cool. But we see these two get to a point where they're on the outside. Gunther gives Seth an apron powerbomb and then tries to powerbomb him onto the announce table, but Seth wiggles his way out of that. They find themselves both on the table, and Seth hits Gunther with a pedigree on the announce table. I believe it was on the Spanish announce table, and then Seth goes on to the American announce table, runs across, and hits Gunther with a stomp onto the table. And then Seth goes on the other side of ringside. The referee goes out to check on Gunther, and apparently the referee is both blind and deaf because he did not hear the crowd start to stir and cause a commotion as Braun Breaker made his return and sprinted down the ring aisle all the way around ringside and speared the crap out of Seth Rollins into the barricade. And Seth gets back in the ring, gets locked in the sleeper, and gets put to sleep by Gunther. So Gunther gets the win here at WrestleMania, brings his record to 2-2. The fact that heading into this show, Gunther had more losses than wins at WrestleMania was pretty crazy. But he got a much needed win, it's honestly just crazy to say that Gunther needed this win, given the fact that he's still coming off of a last, 9-10 months of retiring Goldberg, tapping out John Cena, and retiring AJ Styles. You would think he would be a little more protected, but heading into this match, it felt like a must-win for him, as he has since lost a lot of steam and momentum, given the fact that he disappeared from television for several weeks. So that was unfortunate. But hey, he got the win here. And then Braun Breaker created a new meme for himself as he once again sprinted down the aisle and connected with yet another spear on Seth Rollins. This one wasn't too impressive. He didn't cut him in half like he has done others in the past, but still impressive nonetheless. And then he walked back up the ramp and reunited with Paul Heyman. So Braun's back, which is pretty much exactly what I predicted would happen here. Braun would come out and cause the distraction and win the match. So that's exactly what happened. And they can now resume their planned feud with Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins. I'm sure that'll eat up TV time for the next couple of weeks. But as predictable as that finish was, and yes, it is a distraction finish and all that, interference, I get how that could knock it down a couple of grades for some people, but for me, it was not enough to take away from the actual in-ring ability with Gunther and Rollins. I thought it was really, really good here. So that's really all there is. I don't really have much else to say about this show. I mean, those last two matches I talked about there were the best things on it. Cody and Randy was fine enough, and I guess I'm still somewhat interested to see where it goes after that. But, I mean, again, look at this show, man. This was not a good show. I'm sorry. It's very hard to look at this show and say, yeah, this was awesome. This was great. This felt like WrestleMania. It did not. It felt like Backlash. It felt like some other B show. It felt like an episode of Raw or SmackDown, which is even worse. Honestly, I don't want to go that far. SmackDown is just an abysmal television show. We won't say it's that bad, but again, the word of the day here, advertisements, because that took up such a huge chunk of this show, and it was very nauseating. The fact that I saw way more of Hulk Hogan on this show than I did many of the current talent. I can't remember a single thing of note that Bayley or Lyra Valkyria did in that women's tag team title match, yet I remember distinctly them playing the clip of how Vince McMahon Sr. discovered Hulk Hogan and wanted to change his name to Hulk Hogan, or how he body slammed Andre the Giant, because they kept showing clips of that documentary in place of the actual commercials that would be airing on the ESPN Unlimited app. It's just ridiculous. It is very, very bad for just anyone as a viewer watching this show. It's frustrating. This is a wrestling show. Despite what WWE would lead you to believe, this is still a wrestling show at the end of the day. And it just feels like now more so than ever, they really are ashamed of presenting their wrestling. But it wasn't all bad, because on the same show, we did have John Cena make a few appearances because he was the host of WrestleMania. He opened the show, came out in his suit. He came out later in the night, announced what I have to assume is a fake attendance number of like 50,180 or something like that. But the biggest thing to come out of Cena's appearance was that he also introduced Bianca Belair, who came out there in a very, very large coat, which had me raise an eyebrow, because I'm like, she wears extravagant outfits routinely, but this one was just a very much enlarged coat. So she came out, the crowd pops for her, and they pop even bigger when she opens the coat and reveals that she is pregnant. So Bianca Belair is with child. Big congratulations to her and Montez Ford. I'm not sure how far along she is. I mean, that was a pretty decent bump there, so I assume she's been pregnant for a while. And makes me wonder if, that played a role in some of those reports that we've been hearing about Bianca and her finger injury and her knuckle injury. And because it's like, it's hard to believe that someone could be out for so long with that. Now, I'm not going to discredit that. Maybe that is still true. Both things can still be true. She could have still dealt with that and still be pregnant. But selfishly, of course, as a viewer of the show and as a big fan of Bianca's in-ring work, it sucks that we will now have another several months, if not the rest of the year, which will make it 2 years in a row without Bianca being a main focal point on the TV show. That's not great as a viewer of the show, but on a personal level, this stuff don't even matter. Honestly, the way this show has been in recent months, especially SmackDown, they don't deserve Bianca. So, very happy for her. Big congratulations for her. Genuinely, that was honestly the best thing on the entire show. The most genuine, emotional, heartwarming, best, excellent moment of the entire show. And probably of the entire weekend. Highly doubt anything will top that. That was great. So good on her. So we can end on a positive note, because I have nothing else positive to say about night 1 of WrestleMania. All I can do is hope that night 2 will be better. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I'm going to crap all over this show for 40 plus minutes and then come back tomorrow right here with you guys to talk about night 2, where we'll see Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. We'll see the return of the Demon. We'll see Jade versus Rhea Ripley, and of course CM Punk and Roman Reigns in the main event. We'll see if their match can be better than the one that Cody and Randy gave us on this show. I mean, it can't be any worse, right? So that's it for me now. Thank you for listening, and tune back into the channel around this time tomorrow, and I'll be here to talk about night 2. all I can do is hope that it's better. So, till next time, check you later.